She wasn't stealing. She wasn't begging. She was returning her baby's last can of formula because she couldn't afford it. And the lonely CFO watching from across the store had no idea that this single moment would shatter the walls around his own guarded heart. Stay with me, because what he chose to do next didn't just save a struggling mother. It rewrote his entire life. The fluorescent lights above aisle 7 hummed softly, but to Emily Carter, the sound felt deafening. Her hands trembled as she held the small can of baby formula against her chest. It wasn't heavy, but it carried the weight of humiliation, exhaustion, and fear. Her 6-month-old son, Noah, stirred in his stroller, his tiny fingers twitching beneath a thin blanket. He didn't understand hunger yet. He only understood crying, and Emily had run out of options. Whoa! 2 weeks earlier, she had been laid off from her part-time receptionist job when the clinic downsized. The landlord had already posted a warning on her apartment door. Her savings were gone, used for rent, electricity, and diapers. She had skipped meals so Noah wouldn't have to. Wow. But today, even she couldn't stretch nothing into something. She approached the customer service counter, slowly swallowing the lump in her throat. "I'd like to return this," she whispered, placing the unopened formula on the counter. The cashier gave her a tired look. "A receipt?" Emily's face fell. I lost it. I bought it 2 days ago. Oh, without a receipt, we can only offer store credit. Her breath caught. Store credit wouldn't pay rent. It wouldn't keep the lights on. And it wouldn't help her tonight when Noah woke up crying for milk she couldn't give him. Behind her, a tall man in a charcoal coat watched quietly. Daniel Whitmore, chief financial officer of Whitmore Holdings, had only stopped at the store because his penthouse fridge was empty. At 42, he had everything: wealth, power, recognition. Everything except someone to come home to. His marriage had ended 3 years ago. No children, no family nearby. Just quiet rooms and echoing evenings filled with financial reports and expensive wine he barely tasted. He had mastered numbers, but he had never quite mastered connection. He didn't know why he couldn't look away from the young mother at the counter. Emily's shoulders sagged when the cashier repeated the policy. "I understand," she said softly. "A thank you." She picked up the formula, hugging it tightly. For a moment, she just stood there, frozen. Like if she didn't move, reality wouldn't either. Noah let out a small cry, and something inside Daniel cracked. He didn't think, he didn't calculate, he simply stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I'll take that." Emily turned, startled. "I'm sorry." He placed his card on the counter. "Bonjour." "Add it to my bill." Her eyes widened. "No, I can't. It's okay," he said quietly. Please." There was no pity in his voice, no superiority, just calm certainty. Tears pooled in her eyes anyway. "You don't even know me." Daniel offered a faint, almost broken smile. "And maybe I should." The cashier completed the transaction. The receipt printed. Daniel handed Emily the bag. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Why?" she finally asked. He hesitated. "Because I know what it feels like to go home to silence. Because I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Freya. Because helping you feels like the first real thing I've done in months." Instead, he said simply, "And because everyone needs someone at least once." Noah let out a tiny hiccup, as if in agreement. Emily wiped her tears. "I thank you. I'll pay you back." "You don't have to." "I promise." Daniel nodded slowly, and as she walked away, he felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Purpose. He didn't know yet that this wasn't charity. It was the beginning. Stay with me. Because what happened next would test both of them in ways neither could imagine. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, the penthouse felt colder than usual. The city lights sparkled outside his windows, but they no longer impressed him. Instead, he kept replaying Emily's trembling hands. He had spent his life analyzing risks. But what if the biggest risk was living untouched? The next morning, he returned to the store at the same time. And there she was. This time, she was counting coins in her palm in the cereal aisle. He approached carefully. "A good morning?" She looked up, embarrassed. "You again?" Guilty. She managed a small smile. They talked. Really talked. He learned she had studied accounting in community college but dropped out when Noah was born. She had always loved numbers. She had dreamed of becoming a financial analyst one day. Daniel blinked. Of all coincidences, "Would you," he began cautiously, "consider finishing your degree?" She laughed softly. "With what money?" What if he said, choosing each word carefully, I funded it? She stared at him like he had spoken another language. I don't need charity, she said firmly. It's not charity, Daniel replied. It's an investment. She crossed her arms. In what? In you? Silence. Why me? She whispered. Daniel looked at Noah, who was peacefully asleep. Because someone once believed in me when I had nothing, and I forgot how much that mattered. It wasn't entirely true. No one had saved him like this, but he wished someone had. After days of hesitation, Emily agreed on one condition: she would work for it. So Daniel created a part-time internship at his firm. Flexible hours, remote tasks, real training. At first, the board questioned him. You're giving an unqualified single mother access to financial data? One executive scoffed. Daniel's voice was steady. I'm giving a capable woman a chance. Emily worked harder than anyone. She studied at night while Noah slept. She balanced spreadsheets with a baby on her hip. She refused special treatment. Months passed. The woman who once trembled at a checkout counter now presented projections in conference rooms. The same executives who doubted her now praised her. And Daniel, he changed too. The quiet penthouse began to fill with laughter. With baby toys scattered across polished floors, with home-cooked meals instead of silent takeout dinners, but life, as always, tested them. When Noah fell ill with a severe respiratory infection, Emily panicked. Medical bills threatened to undo everything. Daniel didn't hesitate. He stayed at the hospital. He held Noah when Emily couldn't stop crying. In the sterile hospital room under harsh lights, Emily finally said what had been building in her heart. You didn't just buy formula that day, she whispered. You bought us time. You bought me hope. Daniel shook his head gently. No, he said. You reminded me that money means nothing if it doesn't change lives. Noah recovered. Emily graduated top of her class. 3 years after returning that can of formula, she stood beside Daniel, not as a charity case, not as an employee, but as his partner in a foundation they created together. The Whitmore Hope Initiative funded education and emergency support for single parents striving to rebuild their lives. At the first scholarship ceremony, Emily addressed a room full of struggling mothers. I once stood at a counter returning my baby's formula because I couldn't afford it, she said, voice steady. I thought I had failed. But sometimes your lowest moment is just the doorway to your greatest breakthrough. Daniel watched from the back of the room, his eyes shining. He had built companies worth millions. But this was his greatest return on investment. And as he held Noah, now a laughing toddler, in his arms, he realized something profound. He had walked into a store as a lonely CFO. He walked out as something far richer, a man with purpose, a man with family, a man who learned that the smallest act of compassion can echo for generations. So if you're watching this right now, if you feel unseen, unheard, or one step away from giving up, remember this: one moment, one choice, one act of kindness. That's all it takes to change everything. And maybe, just maybe, your breakthrough is waiting at the checkout counter.